Welcome to another Imaginal Waypoint. As we move through today, which is May 27th through the 1st of June, I want to talk a little bit about the collective theme that you may notice. And remember, these videos are not meant to be prescriptive. They're simply an invitation to get curious about how your life is interacting with the greater archetypal story that is happening. And I'm looking at this through the lens of human design and the gene keys, which is an evolution of human design, because those themes often show up in our lives. And if we bring a consciousness to it, it allows us to be more empowered and really step into our own personal leadership in our own lives and in how we create ecosystems of care and intention and embodied leadership. How we exist is felt by others. So, this theme is rooted in Gate 16 or Gene Key 16. The language doesn't matter, but it's really about the exploration of the, let's say, a continuum between indifference and enthusiasm. And it brings up ideas of fear of change, leaving the comfort zone, stepping out of allegiance to systems and structures that were never actually consciously chosen or expectations. And for years in the work that I've done, I've seen people who are brilliant, who are very capable, who are very responsible, who have pursued success and defined success and responsibility in a way that unintentionally forced them to abandon their own authentic enthusiasm, their most compelling dreams and visions for their lives, their relationships, their work, their service, whatever you might say. And there's a suffering to that, and there's a that energy of indifference doesn't just affect us. It is felt by others. And unfortunately, that has been really culturally normalized. And I'm not saying that we don't all have jobs and moments where we do things we don't really want to do, right? Like there's parenting requires this. Being an entrepreneur requires all these tasks that aren't completely enlivening and entertaining and exciting. I'm not pretending that that's not a part of life. What I am saying is that we can fall into an abundance of excuses that take us out of balance between just the mundane stuff we have to do because we have to do it and really staying in our agency and our personal power to still be devoted to the exploration of what lights us up. So the counterintuitive bit that I've talked with many clients about is we often say we don't have time or the excuse is we can't because there's a million things we could say, right? Our inner victimhood part, which we all have a version typically, will spin whatever story we need. But when we devote time to either getting curious about what lights us up, or we make time, even if it's 5 minutes a day, it does something in the self. It does something to nourish us. It does something to build self-trust. It does something to bring energy to the way we move through life because we're not abandoning ourselves all day. There's a balance. I'm doing this to invest in me, the unique, weird skills, talents, hobbies, interests that I have. And then I have this overflow that gets created over time in a cumulative way to then meet those parts of life that maybe aren't so inspiring. But there's a balance in that. So when we are in connection with our authentic enthusiasm, what lights us up. And this is something I talk about through the lens of human design, each human design leadership type has some really clear things to follow. There's emotional cues, there's somatic cues for some of the types that help you know when you're lit up because it's not a thought. It's a felt sense. And we are a very top heavy culture that is taught to think about what we feel rather than feel what's true and then use our big beautiful brains to be in service to that. So this transit, this period when this archetypal theme is moving through is really asking us, are we sitting on the sidelines of life and just phoning it in because we're doing what people told us we should do, but really feeling very perhaps depleted or just meh? Or are we taking risks to stand up and be different, to carve out time for something that actually is fun, is inspiring, that we're curious about? And and something we can all fall into is the idea of I'm not ready yet. I'm not clear yet. I'm not it's not time yet. The not yetness and this phase, and this is something you could apply to any time of life, but you might feel it more acutely now, is asking, are you going to sit in excuses or are you going to do something? And doing something doesn't mean trying to force an outcome. It means just getting the ball rolling. You know, if you want to get really good at baseball, I have a son that plays baseball. I'm not really a sporty person, but you can't learn baseball just sitting on the bleachers watching forever. At some point, you're going to have to pick up a ball and try and throw it and see what you learn from doing it. So there's this sense of go ready set mentality rather than ready set go. Life is going to be asking us, okay, you're starting to get clear or you're devoting time to getting curious about your dreams, your actual dreams, not the the handbook of what your dreams should be that maybe you got from family, from life, from work culture. It's asking you, okay, so if I really have always been interested in this, or I've always had people reflect that I have natural talents around this, how can I honor that in life? It could be a conversation. If you have creative gifts, it could be setting aside 5 minutes a day to just get out art supplies and pour something onto paper. It could be taking time to listen to music or dance or read a book that's really interesting. And again, people often think it needs to be this grand, sweeping thing. Often it's not. My experience in growth and leadership work is incremental, unsexy change is far more impactful than some big, bold move a lot of times. So the 5 minutes a day, letting it be kind of unimpressive, is the way to create movement. There really is this powerful cumulative effect, not only with the relationship with the self, but the relationship to movement in your life. So asking yourself also, what am I telling myself really quickly is impossible? What am I immediately having a knee jerk response to? Well, I can't because. I can't because. And ask yourself, if I could, if I told myself I could, if I believed I could, what would I be doing? Or what would it take for me to move toward that, even if it feels like an inch? What would it feel like to move, to take one action a day, one small action before I'm ready? What would it do? What would it feel like? What would be required to sort of fail forward and give yourself permission to not be polished, to not have it all figured out, but to still allow yourself to try a thing? Because when we try a thing, we get information. We often have to experiment with life. We have to try things on. We have to see what it's like when we use our voice in different ways. See what it's like when we pick up different skills, talents, or approaches to life. And then the feedback we get from that experience, from other people, or just from the felt sense of doing it, is what helps us get even more clear about what we're capable of in that moment and what we want. We can't just think our way toward the life of our dreams. And when we believe in possibility, it is contagious. When we believe in a diversity of what I've called for years human magic, meaning there's this symphony of unique and diverse gifts and perspectives, when we believe that and are living our own piece of that puzzle, we create shifts in the culture and systems around us. So this is not just personal growth work. This is how we build new ecosystems that allow space for change, that allow space for dreams, that allow the excuses to not be heavier than our potential, to allow like to break through those things that might be really comfortable and familiar. I know I've had times in my life where I just really wrapped myself up in the comfort zone of I can't. And I think given the state of the world, given perhaps certain things that are going on in your life, life may very well ask in a louder voice this week. What have I been telling myself is impossible that I'm now being asked to challenge? And where am I actually not using my personal responsibility, my agency, my authentic power to move toward what is most right, true, and inspiring to me? So that's where we are. And we can shape again family systems, relationships, and teams and culture in the work environment and in the greater environment by doing this work and moving from indifference to enthusiastic possibility.